Hi everyone. We are just going to start with today's session. If any of you are new to this session and you face any technical difficulty or glitch, please leave the meeting and rejoin. And if you have any questions to Aniket sir, then we will take them up at the end of this session. So you can reserve that for the end. So now let me introduce Mr. Aniket Sachan. He is currently pursuing his LLM in constitutional law from Dr. Ram Manohar Lohia, National Law University, Lucknow. He has also finished his BA LLB from the same college. He has secured All India rank 11 in the ILI LL.M exam last year, All India rank 206 in CLAT PG, All India rank 67 in ILIT, and 63 in Lucknow University. Additionally, he has also been selected as a management trainee, legal, at Coal India Limited very recently. So he'll be discussing his experience with respect to cracking ILI's exam, LU exam, and also how he managed to get through the Coal India Limited examination. So Aniket, over to you. You may start.
Hello guys, am I audible and visible both? Okay, so basically hi to everyone who is present in this session and thanks to Aroi ma'am just for introducing me in this particular session. And so today's topic today which we're going to do is basically regarding the strategy for the ILI entrance along with the LU and how to go with the coal management legal training also. Meanwhile, the doubts which would be raised to me, any question you can have, you can just jot it down. And at the end of the session, we can have the doubts so that the flow of the session is not disturbed and maintained. Meanwhile, you can also post the doubt relevant to that particular topic which we are discussing. So I'll try to make this session a very helpful one for all the candidates who are basically present in this session, because when I was at my time at your field, I also faced a lot of issues like how to study, where to start, where to end. And you know now after the COVID time, we are seeing a lot of online resources also available. So where to limit ourselves and where to not. So these are the basic things. And my strategies, which I believe might be helpful for some of you, because every person has its own strategies. It may not suit you guys, but somewhat of I believe the certain points which I'm going to share will surely help you to achieve the path which you're going to follow. So we'll start the session. Basically, first of all, I'll have the session in three parts. That is, I'll discuss regarding ILI, then in a brief discussion about LU and also Coal India. So we are going to see the preparation phase differences from a core institution, that is ILI, then a mid-segment institution, basically focusing on the subjects area very limited, and coming to a very PSU sector, that is Coal India. So basically, this is a profile about me. I have completed my BLLB honors from NLU Lucknow, and I'm currently pursuing my LLM also in constitution of the same institution. Now, moving ahead. So this is the profile about me. I have applied for the following examinations in CLAT PG 2022, ILI, ALIT, and apart from that, I also appeared for the Shipping Corporation legal exam and the Coal India, where I've been selected in the Coal India, and I've even made for the GDPI round. However, this Shipping Corporation is a contractual job, therefore I couldn't want to pursue that thing. Meanwhile, my result for this Coal India was also out. So that's the profile about me. Now, just moving to the session. So this first part of the segment which I'll be dealing is regarding the ILI. And in this, basically, you all know where ILI is situated. So ILI being in Delhi is in front of Supreme Court only. And the location of ILI also makes it a very premier and prior institution for the candidates. First of all, the location advantage it has, because you get a chance to meet a lot of legal jurists, legal scholars, and even the lot of famous teachers who come to visit this university and grace their presence by their valuable lectures. Many times, the judges of the Supreme Court also come to deliver lectures on certain topics. Also, it is situated adjacent to the Ministry of Law and Justice. So we'll have a recent interaction with the law minister of the country. And these things makes it a institution which is very different even from the segmented of NALSAR or NLSIU, which we always hear from our LLB days. Because of this, ILI has marked with special importance. Now, so this is a brief profile about ILI, basically when it's founded and what's the advantage of going with ILI and not NLS or NALSAR, which I'm going to say. So see, in LLB, being honest to every one of you are here, because everyone has seen the time how they study and what their peers have studied. We all know we don't study even under 5 years, be it NLS or be it in today. So you guys also who are appearing for these LLM exams, you also know the worth which we used to study in our LLB days. The time allotment which we give our studies for the semester time is not that much when we prepare. when we prepare for any exams, we devote ourselves to much of the time, but not the time when we study in a semesters. Because जो semester की पढ़ाई आप लोग करते हैं वो exam के पहले ही होती है, but not an holistic experience which you guys do. So if you want to prepare yourself and groom into a holistic personality with the sharp skills on this legal acumen and the legal profilism, so I'll say, so that is an institution in front of you, that is ILI, which is going to shape you in that particular field. Because the legal research, the basic priority of a legal field is a legal research. This institution will surely help you in going with that and groom you in a particular individual who has those skills which is required in today's field. So this is about slight introduction about ILI, where it is and when it was made. So the major advantage of pursuing career with ILI in LLM and PhD or PhD, so you can go with ILI. So that's a slight profile about ILI. Apart from these are the specializations which ILI offers. It offers specialization in criminal law, consti law, IPR, human rights, legal pedagogy, and the three foundation subjects are also there, like research method, comparative public law and justice in globalizing world. So this is a brief intro regarding the syllabus specialization, structure specialization, which you're gonna do if you're gonna move ahead with your ILI LLM. So basically, ILI, if you go in a study, open the site also, it provides admission only for the LLM and PhD only because it's focusing on legal research development. And if you go, you will find a course structure also so framed and a rigid one that they try to delve into you the certain characteristics which you have not been shaped in your 5 years because the teachers therein are also well versed and experienced in this field. If you have heard name of Professor Dr. S. Shivkumar, you have maybe if you're following current affairs, you have seen him in the being member of various law commissions reports also and law commission data also is presented. So such eminent personalities and they are who are experienced in this field, who are shaping in the policies and the law. And if they teach you, they will surely come up with this lot of intricacies which you're gonna miss in your LLB days, being at any of the NLUs or any of the central universities or local colleges, whichever we have. So these are the certain points which gonna add the brownie things for this particular institution. Now, moving ahead with this fee structure for this ILI, the fee structure is around 1.5 lakhs for the entire duration of LLM, and at LLM it ILIs for 1 year. So this is a general intro. Now coming to the major chunk, that is the exam pattern, which we'll wanna discuss with certain emphasis. So ILI paper is divided into three segments. First of all, the paper one, paper two, paper three, and last on the list is a part four, that is basically the interview and VOC. So coming first of all with part one, as you know, I'm showing this slide and I hope, is it visible to everyone with clarity or it's the slide size is issue to anyone? Because now we're going to start a major chunk. So I just want to know if we have a clarity on this. Just put yes so that I can know for the same. Sure. So basically in this part one, which I have written, it shows there are 40 types of questions. So first of all, there are 180 marks paper which is divided into 140 marks of MCQ and 40 marks of subjective, and the remaining 20 marks are there for interview sessions. So if you're gonna study the structure, that is part one, which I have written like the left hand side, you can see part 40 shows for the 40 marks question. It is basically covering your segment from the English language, GK. So these are the things which are involved in this 40 marks of segment. The GS and English contribute the 40 marks. However, there is a negative marking for the same and you have to be very cautious while answering them. But I personally believe that any student should not get hesitated or being perturbed by seeing GS or English because this is not a major chunk of the paper which you're gonna feel like you will miss the rank because most of the students who appear for ILI they are not focusing on these two papers. You all are strolling in the I'll say you're just roaming in the same boat also or you're walking in the same shoes because everyone focuses on the major law subjects. Now, coming to certain point of honesty, if we believe, major of us prepare only for CLAT and ILET, ILI, CUET, DU. These are the backup preferences which we fill. Only few students have the ability who come up with the like ILI will go to ILI to develop a CV or those things because most of these exams, in my terminology, I'll say they are regarded as backup colleges exams because we don't first-hand experience to fill these forms because we are always thought of CLAT, ILET because these are two terms which every law field student aspire for. Maybe if I'm wrong, anyone can just say to me because after discussions with a lot of people and being myself in a legal field, I've seen how much craze is there for this CLAT exam. Although it charges 4,000 rupees for the form, I don't know why, but there is a demand for this exam. So now moving ahead with this part one, that is the 40 marks paper. So I told you like it's of English and GK. Now coming to the part two, that is the 100 marks paper, which basically deals with the law. In further of the slides, I have shown you the subject analysis, how many subjects are given how much weightage. So if you read, there are subjects, very core subjects, first of all. And the major, I'll say, benefit of appearing for ILI is you have to not waste your time going through case laws, and that case laws, first of all, which are not having a sure chance to come. Because if you have seen CLAT 2023 question paper, this time the question paper was not based on the recent case laws, but it was based on the static knowledge which you have acquired over the 5 years of a journey or 3 years of a journey. So this time, CLAT is a very unpredictable paper, and it's not easy to predict whether they will focus much on recent case laws or they will go with the core knowledge. So you can't rely on such exams. But if you go with ILI, you will find the paper pattern to be very similar and symmetrical. These are based on the core laws only, be it IPC, PIL, Juris, Consti, Contract. So these are the major chunk which dominate the paper. And in ILI, I'll say even environmental law and torts also have a sufficient weightage, because if a paper from 100 marks, 10 questions come from these segments, it's a major chunk which you have to study and cannot miss that thing. So any person who is preparing and has a weightage for, who is also aspiring for judiciary or other things, like for competitive exams, they have a source or hand to appear in the ILI CUT exams, because they focuses on your core knowledge. They do not focus on your reading skills or comprehension stuff. So on those things, I'll say this exam forms a very much weightage. Now, this was a 140 marks evaluation which I discussed before you. Now, the third segment is part three, which basically deals with the subjective questions. And you all know the subjective letters I've mentioned that there's a word limit of 150 words. So you have to answer all these four questions. Each question is of 10 marks in subjective, and you will get four questions to write, which all are mandatory. So you have to answer them in 150 words. This is the major challenge which you get, because sometimes question might be too easy, and it will be very difficult for you to narrow down in 150 words. Because if you exceed, also there's a time limit shortage, and if you exceed also, that will show that you are not able to write a crisp or a answer. You cannot answer a crisp answer, and also you cannot press it down your answer, because it will show that you're not well versed in legal writing. So that's why this 150 words word limit and the accuracy of answering those 150 words has a lot of weightage to play. So this I'll be further dealing when I'll discuss the subjective questions. I've brought a slide for the subjective questions too, where I'm discussing how to write the answers also. Because in ILI, if you'll see, I've even brought my merit list also, which will show how much marks distribution is done by the ILI. Because out of the 40 marks, hardly any candidate could score above 25. There's only a one person who could secure 29 marks, and the other person were floating around 15 to 25. That's the weightage which I like gives in subjective. They are very stringent in evaluating the subjective marks. Now coming to the part four, that is the interview. Once you're done with this 180 marks paper, the result, the first merit, there is a marks list out, and in that there is a first merit list in which you will see your result, how many questions you made, how many you were wrong, how many right, what's your marks, and then you are allowed to call for the interview stage. So for the interview, there are different days set you're called for the interview, and the interview generally lasts around 5 to 10 minutes, where you are asked questions pertaining to your field. And once you fill this ILI form, whenever the form comes, you mention your subjects. So certain teachers try to ask you questions based on the subjects which you have entered. So this is a thing which is inquired. Now for this interview thing, I will be further discussing in brief later on this stage. And the time limit for this entire paper is 2.5 hours, and the medium of test is English. So this is a basic broad evaluation which I'm presenting before you, just how to understand, I'll say, or how to just analyze yourself where you are, first of all, because many people are there who are well versed with the MCQ questions, because they have a habit of going through superficial reading, but they are not able to write much in detail regarding the subjective questions. So you have to be a blend of both superficiality as well as of the going through the sections also. Because if you look at the questions which have been asked, they're not asked in much detail, but they are on very clarity topics or very important segments. For example, in ILI 2022, there was a question based on contract, that is frustration. Yeah, we are all have been aware with the doctrine of frustration, the section based in the case laws involved. There was a mere question explain the doctrine of frustration. There was a question based on reservation under Article 15 and Article 16. So now coming to this question, suppose Article 15 and 16 you have in your platter. So you know these topics are too broad, and Article 15 itself can be answered in 2 pages, and Article 16 can itself be answered in 2 pages. Now writing both of them together in 150 words is a major task that has to be accomplished. So these are the things which you have to go through and try to limit down yourself. And I'll just discuss how to go through this. Now, I've also written the about the fees for this entrance exam, that is 2,600 rupees, 2,500 plus GST. So 2,600 is the cost of this exam. Now, for the moving ahead, this is the way how your result, once you're done with the 180 marks of a paper, that is 40 English, 100 marks of your objective of law, and 40 marks of subjective. So this way you'll see a result is displayed, a list comes out. And the marks pattern is there, like how many you opted, how many were correct, and how many you left blank. And that's a major chunk you see. See, I've opted like from the 40 marks, you can see 20 marks over there, and this is a pool of students. Only few are there who could make. If you compare the toppers also of our life, only one boy was there who secured 29. Remaining other were in 20 marks only set. So that's the point you have to go through with it. Now, moving with the first merit list, this is the merit list which comes after interview process is also over. So this is the interview overall exhaustive from rank 1 to the rank 13 I've shown you. So this basically shows you the evaluation of marks. Now, if you go through the column where the marks of interview are given, if the Viva marks out of 20 column, in that basically you see the marks average marking is done in the interview. From 10 to 14 is the marks that has been allotted to the candidates. But if you go with the subjective portion, you can see the topper Aman Mishra also secured 25 marks, and the marks ranging were from this 15 to 25 only. So they don't give you very scoring marks in the subjective. So you have to be well versed with your MCQ portions also and try to get a good marks out of 140. This gives you a lot of edge in the other candidates who are appearing for the same, because seats are limited also, and there is like domination of candidates coming from DU specifically, because being in the same city, most of the candidates who appear for LI are from DU, because I once went for the interview and had interaction with them. They were from all over the country also, but DU was a dominant college which I found. So this is a holistic presentation of the merit list which comes before you, mentioning the correct answers, wrong answers, blank, total questions, marks out of 140, 40, Viva marks. So these are the overall list. This is the final merit list which comes. So I mentioned the first merit list. For the 2022, around 10 lists were out for this particular college, because many people, the ILI exam appeared before the CLAT. So those students who got selected in the CLAT also, they withdrew their seat. And I was also one of them who withdraw the seat from ILI. And I'll show you the reasons of why certain people do so, because I have both prepared questions for why ILI and why not ILI. So these are the points which I'll discuss. Now coming how to prepare for ILI. So as you know, the question I've also written, start, no end. So basically, like we all are preparing for CLAT and IELTS, we know how to start a subject, but we don't know where to end. This is a major question which we face while we are preparing for this any examination, be it CLAT, IELTS, or this ILI, CUTDU, or judiciary, in fact, or even the UPSC law portion, which every most of the students prepare for. So we all know to start, but not to end. So if you want to prepare for ILI, also you have to devote around 5 to 6 months. If you do not have clarity on certain major subjects, like if you're not sure on contracts, if you're not sure on constitution, you're not sure on PIL, there will be a problem being faced by you to tackle this paper, because direct MCQ questions are there. And now I'm going to tell you a very secret hack to just go with ILI. If you want to crack ILI, is just go through the past 5 to 10 year question papers. You will yourself see the repetition therein. In 2022 itself, there were around 20 to 25 questions that were repeated. So such chunk, if your one-fourth question of law are being repeated, that just surely impounds a lot of weightage and caliber to your score, because if you're going through those questions, you surely mark them right. So you will have an idea also of those questions, and you will surely get an edge over those candidates who are not going through the previous year paper. So first tip of advice of mine would be going through past previous papers for the ILI. Be it for any exam, past previous paper form a very valuable analysis. But for ILI, it is super valuable analysis. So this is a time period which I believe you should invest basically for ILI, that is 5 to 6 months, because you will be have to going through the most feared subject of the LLB students, that is jurisprudence, because in most of the colleges it is not taught. So for this, you can rely on the notes from your institutions or the content available on net, because they don't ask in much detail. They ask you simple questions like who was the pioneer for the utilitarianism theory, hedonistic pleasure, social solidarity, who said law is command of sovereign. So very basic statement-based question, book-based or philosophy-based questions. The school segment, which are there, natural, historical, philosophical. So they do not go too deep that why the person came up with such theory. Like suppose if you're going through Henry Main and his theory of law is the movement of society, progressive societies have been from status to contract. You don't need to understand what are the progressive societies, what is the movement, what is status, what is contract. Just you have to be very superficial reading and try to understand what's the purpose, why they say, what school they belong. That's the thing which will surely help you to eliminate the other options. Because if you are well versed with the scholars of this school, then you can eliminate the answer from there only. So that's my thing. Now I'll say second point of mine is to prepare the command on P8. So I'll be further telling you what is P8. P8 basically refers to the very important chunk of the subject which is dominated in this exam. That is PIL, consti, contract, environment, torts, and I've mentioned a further slide for the same, which we'll go through. And as I said, practice previous year paper. And for that, if you don't have previous question papers, you can refer to the Juris Central YouTube channel also. They have provided previous year question papers, or else you can ask to the Juris Edge also. They could also provide you with the previous question papers. So this was a thing. Apart, the fourth point which I'm gonna say is maintaining speed efficiency. See, this paper does not involve reading skills because there is no comprehension-based exam. However, if you will see, there are a lot of options. The options framing is very good. They will try to play with your, because many times question will come with your face between two options, and those two options are being provided with you such clarity that you will feel doubt when you'll answer those questions. For example, a certain person who is not well versed with the concept might get confused if question comes who came with the concept of Hogjes. So as you all know, it's a concept of Savni. But suppose a person is like in a stage of dilemma whether like he knows Savni and Main are the two proponents of the historical law school. Now he gets confused between the two questions. So they prepare the options also in much clarity. And last point, not the least point, is to practice core MCQ questions, which you can go to any LLM books, be it single or this universal. So these books have wrong answers too. But if you're preparing for judiciary or these exams, I'll say you will surely get a weighted because direct questions come. Like for example, which was the first case by which Article 15 subclause 4 was added, be it the amendment in 16.4a, 16.4b, or consequential seniority. So these are things, amendments which are there, GST amendment. But then you all know that reservation today is being marked as a very important judgment discussed by the Supreme Court. And this EWS reservation, the judgment which came recently, forms a very much weightage. And don't need to worry about recent case laws for ILI. Only very controversial or debatable ones are basically discussed in ILI. And for example, if you want to prepare for 2023, there's surely a chance for this EWS reservation to come up in the question paper, or maybe the two-finger test, which debate the or the Bilkis Bano judgment. So the judgment which are there, so those surely will help you in these exams. So this was a short tip of mine for the preparation strategy. Now this is the table which I was focusing you to look on. Like if you go to this 2022 question paper analysis, which I presented before you, the subject weightage which are given. See, you can see the subjects, and P8 is the subject that I mentioned. However, there should be P9, but I'll say P8 because there are certain subjects for PIL. We can go with the superficial reading also, and PIL questions are certain because you're preparing for CLAT also, and added PIL would surely be covered by you. But thoughts, be it your SOGA partnership, you generally try to miss them. And PIL has been a subject which has been like in total it has been 9 questions, but an average 6 to 7 questions are there from the PIL. So therefore, I've included only the P8 subjects which are there, and those things form a much valuable weightage for you. For first example, you have to study very well with the jurisprudence, then the constitutional law. Constitutional law being the grand norm and the the major law which we have. This is the law for land, Lex Loci. So you have to be very well versed with those subjects. If a person is not well versed with the constitution, then I surely say he will face troubles basically in being that also ILI or any exam because constitution is dominated in every exam. They are question based on articles, amendments, recent case laws, old case laws. So you have to go through them. And please, my advice is to any of the students who appear for any competitive exam. अगर आपको लगता है क्वेश्चन का आंसर नहीं आ रहा आपको घबराने की नीड नहीं है बिकॉज इफ यू हैव वेल वर्स्ड और आपने अच्छी तैयारी करी होगी तो बेसिकली अगर आप देखेंगे तो जब आप एग्जाम हॉल से बाहर निकलेंगे आपको मिलेगा कि आपने तैयारी की थी अच्छी बाकी बच्चों को भी दिक्कत आएगी अगर आपकी तैयारी अच्छी है आपको नहीं आता चांसेस आर वेरी हाई दैट अदर पीपल आल्सो डोंट नो दिस वाज द सेम थिंग व्हिच आई फेस्ड व्हेन आई अपेयर्ड फॉर द IELTS 2022 exam because it was the first time when they came up with this concept for the double elimination round, like from MCQs, they also have subjective questions because many of the people face the issue of time crunch. And when I came out, I thought my paper was not good. I felt my chances were weak. But I saw a lot of people crying, and I found it that paper was really tough for everyone. So that provided me a sense of security. So please don't try to get fit up. Just try to give your best and go to the subjects which are mentioned for these MCQ revision is the best tactics you can go through or any crisp short notes which you can follow. So these were the things which I'll say for the subjects. Like you can go through the number of questions which I've provided, like Juris 10 questions, Consti 13, TOTS 12, 10, 10, 10 for the contracts, IPC, SOGA. And even the limitation SRA forms are certain weightage. So for these acts, you don't need to go through the entire section. Merely index reading or just a marginal note is sufficient. Because if you invest in small segments also, you will surely miss the larger chunk. Try to first cover those subjects which are common in other exams. See, those subjects are common in PLAT, which are common in your ILT, which are common in your CUET, DU, or ILI. First, try to cover those subjects which are the major subjects in any exam, be it any competitive exams also, apart from the LL.M entrance. My advice will be to cover first those subjects. So this was our basically analysis of the previous year question papers and the 2022 question paper. Now coming to the subjective questions, as I said, I will be discussing them in slight detail. So this is the subjective question part which came in 2022. So you can go through the question papers which were there. First one was regarding the constitutionality and legitimacy of reservations in public employment and the educational institutions. And second is regarding the sovereignty, Austrian concept of sovereignty. Third is, as I said, the frustration of contract. And the fourth one, the very, I'll say, you can say easy also, trickiest also, or I'll say case law based question, that is distinguishing between murder and culpable homicide not amounting to murder. So basically, the way to answer, which I personally did, and my other peers who had made into ILI also did, I discussed with them. See, first of all, ILI basically sees is whether you have the clarity on answer. For any good answer writing, I'll say you have to begin the answer with a 1-2 line of introduction, followed by the provisions with their key ingredients and a case law, which is a very relevant to it. Now, if you look at the first question regarding the legitimacy of reservations, so if you directly start writing Article 15 provides, then it will show you that you are a mugger person. You are not a person who has a understanding with a holistic understanding. So, best way to answer this question is to begin reservation 1-2 lines in detail, like what is reservation? It is an affirmative action to allow marginalized class to come up in the society who have been marginalized for over a period of time to give them upliftment. So if a slight introduction on those lines, 1 to 2 lines will be sufficient to mark your answer. Then we may start your question at Article 15 basically deals with the reservation in the education institutions and how the Article 15 is broken because it basically refers to your education institutions. So you don't need to mention Article 15 sub clause 1 that no discrimination will be there, 15.3 women and children. There is no need to mention. They are specifically asking you for the education institution. Start from Article 15.4. The Article 15.4 provides for SEBCs. And first of all, I'll say to anyone, please be very sure with the terminology used. Like, if suppose in exam you write Article 15.4 mentions other backward classes or OBCs, examiner will surely mark your answer because the Article 15.4 basically only deals with SEBC, that is socially and educationally backward classes, SCSTs. It does never mentions OBCs. So you have to be clear on these concepts and terminologies which are intermingled between the articles or sections. So you have to be very cautious on them. And you can start to answer Article 15.4 basically deals with this, and Article 15.5 provides for the private institutions also reservation is there for certain seats. 15.6 is there for the AWS, and how Article 16 is there. And in meanwhile, you have to present 1 to 2 case laws. For example, reservation you're discussing, and there can be no answer reservation without your Mandal Commission case, that is in the Rasani case. So you have to mention that case, M. Nagaraj, or be it any, now, as you know, this time 2022, if suppose same question repeats in 2023 question paper, surely you need to answer these EWS judgment also with reference to the recent case laws because the recent case law is always a icing on the cake. So you have to be well versed with that thing. Now coming to this concept of sovereignty. So basically, all know what is sovereignty. You have to define what does sovereign mean and what was Austin theory. So if you don't mention Austin theory, that law is a command of sovereign backed by sanctions, that will show that you are not going well versed with the idea of sovereignty of Austin, but you're trying to answer it on a very general note. So since he wanted to discuss, the question is asked to discuss the suitability in federal constitutions. So now you have to apply a constitution also, how the constitution is linked with the concept of sovereignty. So this sovereignty, you all know, we in India is a federal country also, and we follow seven schedule. We have seven schedule. We have Article 246, with different lists are there, and there's a division of subjects also. So when you will look at this thing, you'll clearly say that states are sovereign in the limited subjects and the power that are allotted to them. Union is supreme in those things. And also there's certain cases there is incidental enroachment. And to prevent that, we also have certain doctrines evolved by the courts like fifth and substance and the colorable legislation. So there are certain doctrines are also there with your concepts of the difference between relative sovereignty and absolute sovereignty. Because the other thing which I told you beforehand were basically focusing on the constitutional aspect. Now, if you go with the international aspect or also jurisprudential aspect, you can also relate what is difference in absolute sovereignty and relative sovereignty. So that will fetch you a brownie point. Like relative sovereignty is basically used in the international law terms because when we give ourselves to being be a part of UN, it doesn't mean that we are submitting all things to the global jurisdiction. We're only submitting a part of membership to them, but we are free in our internal affairs. So those things which you can relate it. Now coming to the frustration one, I'll not discuss in much detail because everyone knows Section 56. What are the keywords? Initial possibility, subsequent possibility, the important case laws. In the India first case law, that was Satyabata Ghosh versus Mungi Rai. Then you can also mention about the case law, that the coronation case of 12 versus Henry or the Taylor versus Cadwell. So certain cases you need to be very focused and so short. For example, if question comes regarding general offer, and if you don't write Carlyle smoke ball, then the question will never fetch you marks because there are certain cases which are the essence of that question. So you have to very much go through that thing. Now the fourth question, murder and culpable homicide. I'll just surely want to know any from one of you what is the reading case law and who was the judge in that reading case law whenever you write this answer regarding the distinguishing between murder and culpable homicide, which we have to write. So anyone can just type in the name of that particular case in which there was a distinction made between murder and culpable homicide. Yeah. So as Mr. Asutosh mentioned, the R versus Govinda, Justice Mill was the person who came up with this distinguishment and what were the certain parameters on which this distinguish is being made. And like the word of sufficient is used or the in all probability, the two keywords which are used in clause 4, clause 5, if you look in section 300. So those two words basically form the major difference in the 299 and 300. So you have to go through that and highlighting with the recent case laws if you know, or if not, the old case laws like Virsa Singh or the other case which you are well versed, part explaining the sections also. So this thing marks a pair. If you don't write Reg versus Govinda, and suppose you write Justice Neville also, so it will surely show the examiner that you are well versed and you have done a holistic reading. You know, you don't coming from the teacher's lectures, you attended teacher lecture and coming to answer on those particular things. You are trying to go through with the points which you have also invested a reading, which you have also gone through. So these things give you an outer edge on this particular thing. So this was regarding a way to tackle subjective questions. And now basically this is a thing which I'll advise what not to do if you're preparing for ILI because there are certain Barak reading is sufficient. As I said, SRA and partnership, though questions are asked, but I don't believe that you much focus on those subjects because if you focus much on quantity, juris, PIL and other stuff, you will surely make it in. But these subjects only superficial reading is required, no depth required because you start studying from the books. That's surely wastage of your time. Just go through a superficial reading with them. Then try to focus only on the laws which are provided in the syllabus, right? Which, as I mentioned in the exam pattern also. And local state legal issues are not important unless they are being discussed in Supreme Court. For example, the issue of Jallikattu is involved, or any recent state practices which are there in local tribes practice maybe, which is involved in the High Court or Supreme Court. Those things can be relevant for you, but not other things. And first of all, you are here relaxed from the studying recent case laws because there's no more much lines on the recent case laws that you'll have to study from the entire January to December. So we are relaxed from this particular field. However, if they this time in 2020 they will come up with such recent case law also, then and you have to go through. But right now till old times until 2020, there was never been a inclusion of recent case laws. And remember, my master advised that we have to clear the entrance exam and do not do a mastery in the subject. So just try to go through these subjects and don't try to first of all be feeling like yeah, तैयारी अच्छी नहीं हो रही है. Just go through the time when you will yourself go through them. You will go rapid revisions of yourself. Will come up with the point that yeah, you are well versed with that particular thing. So this was point how to study, as I've discussed earlier also, it's just not to focusing on all subjects, first covering those which are maximum covered in exams. Maximum exams will find repeated subjects. And if you can do well, you can easily crack without going through all of them because no single student studies all the subject and just try to avoid negative marking also. And also just try to focus on the recent case laws. Don't focus on recent case laws because it's not a paper of CLAT or ILET. That's the thing. Now coming to a major chunk, why LI and why not ILI? So first of all, the location advantage, as I added to you all guys, and those candidates who have not appeared in the NLUs or for their 5 years, or they're looking for a premium institution because the name tagging and brand building after this post-COVID has also been made. So if a premium institution a candidate is looking for, you can go with ILI also. There are sessions from this various distinguished personalities like Mr. Upendra Bakshi. You all know Dr. Upendra Bakshi is also there, MP Jan, the MP Singh. They come up with their lectures and all those things are there. So there are also library access, which is a provided. And the biggest asset I'll say is your work on legal research skills, which you will surely learn through. So this will help you to develop your basically academic skills. But the reason I'll say is for those candidates, why not ILI is for basically focusing those candidates who are trying to prepare for competitive exams, be it NET, being it judiciary, being it UPSC. You can, if manage your studies along with your LLM, then my advice is there, then you should try ILI. But for candidates, those who think there's any location problem to them, or there's a chance of uh, they want to prepare only for this, I'll say, competitive examinations and not focusing much on them, for them, ILI would be a problematic thing because they have to measure a very hectic schedule. And the thing which I myself found to be a problematic for my case was no hostel facility. So in Delhi, you have to live for 1 year and trying to manage things. Suppose class gets cancelled, you are not having any option to go back because if you go back and class gets scheduled after lunch, so you have to be remain in the institution from 10 to 3, 10 to 4. So that's a small issue which ILI face. But candidates who are aspiring for legal research and legal aiming, for them that should not be an issue. So this was basically the reasons for why ILI and why not ILI. Now, basically, moving ahead with the Coal India thing, also, I just want to know if anyone has doubt regarding this, I'll say, ILI session. So I'll just try to cater this right now because after going to Coal India, there might be questions that person who get confused between the two questions which they want to ask. So if you have any questions regarding ILI, you can just ask me here. So, guys, a small comment from your side. Sir, ILI, yeah, there's a reservation for all categories. You can go through the schedule on the even ILI website. There's a reservation for all. Okay, so I see no further questions. I suppose people are just keeping these such questions for the end. So I'll just move ahead with the Coal India preparation now. For the seats, I'll say, Pragya, you need to just go to the brochure because I'm not well versed with the limited number of seats. 10% you can just go through the overall seats. So you can just see the reservation in that. I'll just update you if you can contact me on LinkedIn or not. I'll just go through and cross check them. So yeah, the questions regarding Rio, okay, I just forgot to mention as that not filled in much detail. So first of all, see whenever you fill the ally form, you will have to mention the subjects that you've studied in your 5 year. Like what was like in many institutions you see there are concept of honors. Like we have in RML also BLLB honors, and you have specialization in 2 semesters in particular subject. So if you are an institution with having such subjects like honor subject or based on any particular theme which you have studied, and if not the other core subjects you have studied over the period of 5 years, you have to mention that form. And when you go in the interview form, they will have that list which you have submitted in your application form. So generally, they ask you questions on those things. And in my cases, since I mentioned for the international law honors, as I completed my international honors the eighth and ninth semester of my LLB. So basically, the question were addressed to me on international law only. They asked me questions pertaining to what is who was the father of international modern PIL? What's the difference between treaty and a convention? What's the genesis of the international law of sea? What is the demarcation regarding territorial waters, EEZ or the contiguous zone? Questions for regarding which entries of the constitution also which pertains to the international law or any article, like article 253 basically deals with the ratification of treaties. So those questions which were linked with international law, and since they do not have a specific international law specialization, so they ask me like what other subject which you gonna do if you are not offered this international law here. So I answered them to be like I will sure to go ahead with the constitution, and they addressed me constitution top questions like where the pardoning power has been mentioned, who appoints the various bodies like constitutional bodies are there, then article based questions. So these were the things which were asked, and even to certain other candidates whom I have asked the question which were posed to them, mostly were them from the constitution only, and to some even environmental law questions were addressed, like case laws were directly asked to them, like which concept was developed in this Vellore institution case or this your all you have gone through this public trust doctrine which are involved in the Kamalnath case, that is spam motel case. So there are certain cases where directly addressed to them concepts like constitutionalism. What is constitutionalism was asked. So you have to be well versed because 2 3 candidates were not able to answer this basic question like what is constitutionalism, and I was also even shocked to know that they are not aware with this thing. But that's a very basic thing which I suppose you should know, like what's constitutionalism and what's constitutionalism and what is constitution and what is constitutional law. So those things you have to just be clear understanding on those topics. And see if you like go with the IPC also, there were chunk of questions from IPC also and CRPC portion, like what are the rights of the arrested person in CRPC. There is a concept of anticipatory and non-bailable offences bail. So there were mixed chunk of questions, and interview generally lasts for around 5 to 10 minutes. But just I'll say try to be very confident and never try to bluff the examiner, because for those candidates who are appearing for the international law honors or those things, I'll say please don't try to bluff because questions have been directly addressed by the director of that institution. And Manoj sir is himself a pioneer in the international field. So there was a panel of 5, but all questions to me were addressed from Manoj sir because he was the international law faculty there and he deals in international law. So the faculty grills you on those questions and just try to have a smile and answer those questions. And if you're not sure on those things, you can surely say, sir, I'm not aware with that question, or else don't try to just bluff them with wrong answer. Like someone asks you where is pardoning power mentioned, says 62, and you start, if there's a dissent, then also you start to trying to prove your point to show your confidence that I'm sure on that answer. Don't try to do this because that will surely go against you. And the interview is a very mandatory procedure. Those candidates are in top in the merit list, but don't appear for the interview. They will never be considered. That's the thing which you're gonna go for the interview. So it has corporate law specialization. I have shown you in the earlier slides what the specialization were available in them. Like once again, I can go through that. So these are the specializations. It does not have a corporate law specialization. It has specialization in criminal law, constitutional law, IPR, human rights, and law pedagogy. A certain aspect of as a corporate, you can go with the IPR, but both are different fields. There's no linkage between them. But if you have a slight idea with IPR also, then you can go with that. Or else for the corporate laws, basically you have to go with the top NLUs, which is the data for like NLSIU, NLIU, or NLUJ, which basically specialize in LLM, basically with corporate laws. So those were the things for the ILI.